Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Monday. It's April 13th, 2026, 11:25 on the clock as we speak. I am feeling amazing. I hope that you are too. And I'm looking forward to seeing how we're going to start this fantastic week with this message. So let's get right into it, shall we? All right. Oh, okay. Eight of Cups. Somebody could be walking away from something or about to, or a situation calls for walking away, to be walked away from. Well, that was the Empress. Whatever it is, whatever the decision is, it's well informed or well thought out. Yeah, the Empress would be pretty sure of herself to something more peaceful, something more at ease, or maybe this actually is more or less the rest assured mentally that you're making the right decision. Yeah, as I said with the Empress card, like you're first of all well authorized and equipped to make empowered decisions. And also, even if it's a tricky one, as sometimes Eight of Cups situations can be, where you're leaving a lot behind or something familiar, something that you may have even been comfortable, it can evoke a bit of anxiety, to consider picking up and transporting yourself, whether it be physically or otherwise, to something altogether new and most likely unfamiliar, or maybe even unknown. But I feel like the Four of Swords is kind of like, it's an invitation to kind of just rest your mind, make your decision and let the rest kind of play out as it will. Like, you're not wrong for whatever it is you're deciding to do. And there's some variables about it that you may not be able to holistically control, like what's going to meet you on the other side or what the next may be. But just take heart in the decision that you are empowered to make, which in this case may be to walk away, to leave something behind, to leave someone behind, to change, to shift from a place of comfort and maybe even complacency, and see what else is out there for you. You just rely on what you can't, rest on what you can't control, what's within your power, and be open-minded for the rest to work out in the best case scenario that it possibly can. That's actually the best projection you can make for yourself, is that everything is working out for your good, even if you don't really know how so just yet. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this to me is like the mysterium of the outcome. Maybe some things that haven't revealed themselves materially yet, but it also is, to me, doubling down on the fact that your decision is well informed. Even if you don't have evidence for it, maybe you just intuitively know that it's time to move on from something, do something else, go somewhere else, maybe physically move or change the way you feel or think about a situation. That could also be it with the Cups and the Swords. The way you perceive something, you just intuitively have a nudge that change is underway, and it's also like a devotion to what that change gets to be. Again, committed to the greatest good of all, the highest good of all. With the High Priestess here, it's like a really, like a high level, a highly informed or high level choice or decision that's made here, that undoubtedly with the High Priestess is going to turn out favorably one way or another. Yeah, with the Magician. Oh wow, this is some powerful energy. So this change, maybe you haven't, it's hard to kind of connect the dots on just yet as it's unfolding on how you actually manifested this change for yourself. Like you've called it in, you've prayed it in, you've set intentions for a certain thing, maybe at the end, an end result, but you just weren't necessarily privy to all the steps of the process in between that intention and the fruition of it all. But yet and still, to me, it just seems like somebody should be commended for their dedication and their devotion to whatever the necessary steps may be, the processes, maybe even the things that you didn't necessarily see ahead of yourself or plan for, like having to walk away from things that maybe you don't even want to, and then having to be okay with it and having to trust the process, even when it doesn't necessarily amount to what you would have chosen to get the job done or have the outcome. It's the high priestess and magician is a beautiful balance in that manifestation process, because it's saying that you're devoted to the greatest good and the highest possible outcome, but you also take control and responsibility for what you can do, like the power that's within your possession to co-create universally. If the universe is asking for X, Y, and Z, you don't have a problem you following, obeying that command. Or I know obey kind of seems a little bit a little bit restrictive, but I guess submitting to that command, making agreement with that command often ultimately. And command is different from demand, because command is an instruction, it's an order, but it's not necessarily anything that you have to do. Like, again, you exercise your own sovereignty and your own right, even within righteousness, to accept invitations and certain calls and follow certain directives or not. But it's looking like this is someone that knows how to take direction and will receive a command with no offense, and even maybe perhaps much less defense. And also, again, pick up whatever tools or resources or abilities they have, like put everything in their power to work. I'm getting particularly in the meantime, that's what I'm hearing. So it's like while things are unfolding and you're getting directions and maybe sometimes not, or being told to wait or be still or whatever, sometimes, the magician, in the magician energy, you can activate that power, that kinetic force, to do the best that you can do, even while you wait for the best possible outcome. So to take all the materials and resources that you have at hand and make it work for however long needs to be, even while you're still projecting in faith something that is a much more holistic experience of fulfillment. So it's like weird, because you're not stuck in places that you've identified or have I guess identified, but not, that wasn't the word I heard, that you have that there's admittance that are no longer suitable. Like when you get that green light that it's time to go, you don't necessarily resist it, so there's that piece. But then there's also the uncertainty of where to next, or sometimes how to, or when. So you don't, but and the human inclination at times can be to still, which is why a lot of times people do hold on prior to an Eight of Cups energy, even when there are clear indications that it's time to release or move on, because you don't know what's next, and you don't know what's in store if you release something that you can at least account for, and for all intents and purposes trust. So there's a having to release that grip, having to be settled in the uncertainty or in the transition, having to still hold faith and devotion for the initial intention as it was, even while you are allowing space for that to even be expanded, as the high priestess and the magician, because your projection of the best case scenario is often shadowed, overshadowed by what the divine has in mind. So still, again, giving leeway to that as well, to those adjustments and amendments, and still in the interim of all of that, doing the best and the most that you absolutely can without overstepping your bounds or underserving yourself at the same time. This is a very powerful projection of energy here. It's like underrated power here. Maybe even unnoticed with the high priestess. Like, it kind of, it's not loud. It's not in your face. It's subtle in many ways. Like, this is someone that when their manifestations show up, darn it, I forgot my water. It very much so gives, like, where did that come from, or where did you come from, or how did they get that, or when they start doing that? Like, you just kind of appear or emerge in some fantastical way, so it seems, because the processing that may have happened behind the veil or behind the scenes could never be taken into account. Even if someone was watching you the whole time do all the things that I'm speaking of, like balancing all of those frequencies at once and maintaining integrity and focus and drive and enthusiasm and passion, purified passion, you still wouldn't understand, because it's something that happens more internally than it does on display. Like, you probably wouldn't even see the fruits of the labor of someone such as this until it's already manifested. And the same may be true for the person themselves, like not even realizing how potent your passion in this regard that I'm speaking of truly has been in that co-creativity with the divine, because like I said, it's so subtle, it's so cerebral, it's so emotional and psychological, more than it is even physical or material, that the person that I'm speaking of may even have what's the right word, when you not under what's the word that keeps coming and going back out? When not taken for granted, but underestimated. There it is. I'm not even sure if I said that already, but couldn't get it out. Pardon me, I'm so sorry. Underestimated how all of these intentions and investments have been a major contributing factor to whatever it is that's about to materialize. So if it's hard to see from the outside in, that's pretty understandable. But sometimes even from the inside out, you don't even know, just how responsible you actually are for creating the experience that you have right now, in many cases without even lifting a finger. Changing your mindset, changing your perspective, shifting your ideals about a situation, being open-minded to a fresh perspective or a fresh take on an old situation, being adaptable to change, all of that, is things that, resourceful, all of that, patient, dedicated, consistent, all the things that don't have a material measure to them really, but yet they do, So here we have the Knight of Cups. Okay, so this is some type of emotional or I feel like it's just like respite, like somebody coming in to offer you a cool drink, like, hey, relax. Because like I said, or maybe I said this in the message yesterday, sometimes it's hard to know when you can take a break. Literally, Four of Swords here, where you can rest your mind or even rest in the activity that you've committed yourself to, particularly for manifestation purposes. You don't know that, you don't feel at least that you can rest on your laurels, especially when there's no material or significant material evidence to prove that to you. So you don't know like you've done enough, or that what you've done so far was all that was needed, or when to kind of pull it back or conserve. You would never know that really unless somebody came along and said to you, or unless the evidence proves to you that you can, by way of the fruition of it all, the fruition of your faith. But even still, at this frequency of ambition, that would still drive someone to just check that box off and move on to the next, or to literally add some new goal to their agenda, or some new ambition to their plans, because even after being being given the proof or the evidence, like you did this, you got this. Now if God itself came and said, rest, my child, this is an energy that still would be like, you sure? I mean, I got some more steam left in me, or I'm on adrenaline right now. What can we do next? But maybe there is an opportunity here to kind of be at peace and at rest, relaxation, and for restoration purposes before you jump into the next thing with what you've done so far. This is me giving you the sign that even if you haven't seen the material fruition just yet, I'm telling you that it's already in your auric field. And sometimes it can be, I feel like it can be a bit more delayed when we overexert ourselves to achieve what's already been manifested. Sometimes it can kind of push it out, or you can just not notice it. I've literally had that happen to me firsthand, where I was like on 1,000 after a goal, trying to manifest something, kinetically, literally, physically going after something, and didn't even realize, because I was so busy, that it was already in my possession. I already had it. It was already transferred to me. What I thought I was working toward was already in my possession, literally. So, in one regard, I could have rested much sooner than what I actually did. Like, even just energetically, like, woosah, like, okay, you're fine, you're good. You don't have to, go for it so hard right now. But in the other sense, what I was grateful for is the drive that it incited in me, that, as I said, is kind of in overdrive now. So I can choose to transfer that energy in some other space and place. That remains to be seen what it will be. But in some cases, really, it is a matter of the respite, the regeneration, the rejuvenation, the even reflection. Like, sometimes I literally prayed this, like, please allow me to just be in the moment of this realization right now, without piling new ambitions onto myself, and I don't even get to enjoy where I am right now. Because really, when you enjoy that moment of achievement, so to speak, in the present form, that is the refueling, so that you can actually readjust your efforts or your strategies, usually in most cases, to work a lot smarter than you were working harder in seasons when you felt that that was your only option. That was your resort, to work as hard as you possibly can with the materials and things that you had available to you. And the achievement, or the I don't know, the arrival, I suppose, is what can soften your approach a bit, so that you don't overwork yourself to the point that is unnecessary. Like, you just do the proper amount of work for what's needed. Because how many of us would have done something different? Like I said, even just case in point, my situation, I might not have come to a complete stop, but I would energetically would have been going about what I was doing anyway, with a different frequency. Like, it just would have been different. So if you can kind of get ahead of yourself on that, and not keep cycling back into not realizing that until it's already said and done. Meanwhile, you've already overexerted yourself and can barely, in some ways, appreciate the moment of arrival. It just makes for a better cycle of regenerative energy, where it doesn't feel like hard work in life as much anymore. It's just devotion, which to me is what a lot of what the High Priestess card represents here. All right, so let's see. Let me get a few more out. What's this Knight of Cups offering or giving to? What's his deal? Here it is. Like, yeah, like, ease, at ease, soldier. That's exactly what that is. I ain't even gonna drag it. You've done enough. You've given it all you had. You're really like at the end of a cycle, or is it completion? Completion. You've completed a cycle of struggle where, like I said, it was a necessary evil to maybe work yourself to the max, to power through difficult situations, perhaps, to do the work that often may have gone unnoticed or unrecognized. And not just from the outside in, but even you not knowing how all of your hard work and dedication was, what it was going to yield, or if it was going to yield anything at all. Having to move in integrity throughout those circumstances can be exhausting, mentally, energetically, physically. It can be exhausting. So I do feel like this, again, is a double down on just take some time to recover, take some time to reflect, to give credit where credit is due, most importantly to you, and your role in all of this, not to exalt yourself over the divine per se, but it's to recognize your strengths and maybe even some opportunities in your approach and your strategy. So again, in the next go round, when it's time to giddy up again for in whatever way that may present itself to be, you're working with a higher frequency of intelligence here. Maybe to avoid this burnout altogether, if you can, where you literally get pushed to the nth degree, like to your max. Maybe there were opportunities for you not to go so hard, or to be so hard on yourself, and the outcome still would have been the same, if not even better, in some way, shape, or form. and more so better in the transition of it all, because you would be working in a different mindset, and a more purified ambition than perhaps like scarcity or fear or anxiety, or a certain those drives that they push you and they get the job done, but again, it's taxing on the mind and on the spirit as well. If you can work just as hard, with a different outlook or different resonance of security, because some people just really like the grunt work. They do. They like to roll their sleeves up and get to it. It makes them feel fulfilled. It makes them feel accomplished, to feel that burn, so to speak. But if anything, if you could shift your perspective so that it's not like you're the psychology of it all, so you could still commit yourself to the burn if you so desire to, but the burn doesn't burn you out mentally and psychologically, if that makes sense. So it's a difference when, like you're working hard, like say, let's make it material, like you're working to achieve a certain financial goal. It's different when you feel like you're doing it because you have to, your life depends on it and you have no other choice, and everything is riding on you getting to the bag, as opposed to just getting to the bag for fun because it's what you enjoy to do, but knowing that you're taken care of regardless, whether that be practically speaking because you have savings or you got something tucked away, so you still going hard, but you got a nest egg regardless, or just psychologically knowing that scarcity is never the to be deferred to. Even if it is a matter of accumulating or acquiring a certain goal that is, holistically objective, you still can choose to shift the psychology in that regard to one that is already abundant, which then I feel would make for a much shorter manifestation process and a more easeful one, maybe even enjoyable one, So yeah. I ain't gonna harp on that. I hope I conveyed that well, because I feel like that's very powerful. Let's see, one more on this line, and I think I'm gonna close it up. I've been trying to really, I would like to be shorter. I know it's not a lot of cards, but yeah, look at this Chariot, and that's the card of the what they say in the in ballroom, that's the walk of the night. That's the card of the day right there, Chariot. Like already a winner, and that came out yesterday at the very end. Already a winner, already successful, just for the mere mentality, as I was saying before, like the type of power that I was pulling on is somebody that maybe unbeknownst to them before this moment, maybe that's the evidence that is revealing itself. So like I keep making reference to how you work moving forward, like how you conduct that your creativity as you move forward in a way that's less exhausting. This is saying to me that, again, how you have conducted yourself without the physical evidence in ways that no one could see, sometimes in ways that you didn't recognize, was what had already clinched the win. That was the winning mentality, the winning force. I don't know how to say it, like this Chariot card is so profound to everything that I've said, because it's like this is the physical result, the manifestation the success, the achievement, the accomplishment, and also gives nod to the will and determination that it would have taken to get to this point in the first place. That had to be resonant before the material form. And that's the thing to be celebrated and pronounced that much more again, so that you don't have to take yourself down through there. You know, maybe as you've been conditioned to do so, to see material results, because you're not sure that your intuition, your spiritual conductivity, as well coupled with your kinetic force, is enough. You know, like more heavy, the high priestess came out before the magician did anyway. So to me, it's more heavy on that spiritual influence and affluence than it is even on the physical resourcefulness. You know, that's like what comes after the fact. So yeah, it's like heavy on someone's like spiritual power here, you know, to really kind of wield an outcome for just projectively, you know, more than anything, which sometimes is, again, what is the word I used again? Oh, underestimated, because you can't measure it and you can't account for it physically, you know. But to me, like, that's the most prevalent force of all these cards. We got the Chariot here. And it also, you know, confirms that all that was incurred here at the 9, I'm struggling to say was worth it, but I'll say it wasn't in vain. I'll say that. Because even if, you know, you pushing yourself to the max, even kinetically speaking, was necessary for you to learn that you don't even need to do that. You know, or you could have conserved more of your energy had you have known better. This is a now you know better, and so you get to do better situation. So that puts you in the position, if you could manifest the Chariot, having not known your power, known how resilient you actually can be, how resourceful you can be, how devoted and dedicated and disciplined you could be, then what will you be able to do now, having all of that evidence in your possession? It makes the Chariot a projective force of unstoppability, you know, invincibility in some regards. Like, there's no if you almost got taken out, you know, pushed to your max at the 9, but you didn't, and managed to eke a Chariot out of it all, the highest form of success and achievement you can have in this regard, then what can you do now, knowing that you don't even have to do all that? You know, like, if you could have a do-over all over, you know, a do-over from the same from the same in the same circumstances, you would probably use your energy more wisely and conservatively, I suppose. And as I said before, probably clinch an even bigger win and achievement, not just on account of what materializes, but also on account of how little you had to overexert yourself to have it be so. I hope this is getting across right, because it's so profound to me, but I don't know if I'm articulating it the best. Look at this with the Queen of Wands. My goodness, it's curating a supreme confidence in you now. That's what it's doing. It's like, this is the perfect balance of what I'm saying, because The Queen of Wands is notoriously mystical of all the queens, and also kinetic. You know, like she definitely ain't no stranger to getting up or going out and getting it, but she also knows that she has an attractive force and quality about her that doesn't require any kinetic movement whatsoever at times. You know, just the projection of desire and her passion is magnetic at a, and as in the queen's position, at a high resonance, in a high quality. So you're not just attracting any old thing to you, but 9 times out of 10 you're attracting exactly what it is that you desire to have. You know, that's that that like marksman quality of the Queen of Wands and fire signs, King or Queen of Wands in general, where you see it. What's Ariana Grande song? I see it, I want it, I bought it. I forget how that song goes. I see it, I want it, I bought it, I got it, something like that. Like you see it, you see your target, you see your inspiration, you ahead of yourself already determine your possession of it, you know, before you even lift a finger, make a move. Then perhaps you construct a plan of action that is within the reasons of you know, your purest passion, not often at this level, not overexerting yourself. So really it is, like I said, someone really coming to the whole knowledge of just how powerful they are, you know, and knowing how to pick up the magician here, knowing how to pick up those certain resources and influences as needed, knowing that it's not always physical, it's not always spiritual, it's not always mental, and it's not always material, you know, but it's an array of those things at any given time, but not hurling your whole self at it at anything all at once before you even get to kind of determine what the situation truly calls for, you know. So it's like having a much more prescriptive projection of how to wield your force, how to wield your power, again, so that it's conserved most effectively and invested most efficiently, if that makes sense. And yeah, I knew I saw this at the bottom, the 5 of Pentacles. Yeah, otherwise here's the burnout. And what's that? Another 5. Ooh, look at that. What is that about? With the Hangman. And then the 9 of Pentacles. What is that? Hold up. I gotta... Because don't ask me why I felt like I had to keep going. I just did. Okay, Spirit, what is this? It could either be like the past, you know, like a reflection of the past. What's that under this? Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Oh yeah, that's the past. Where, like I said, you would burn out, push yourself to the max, maybe feel like you got to do it all on your own, sometimes being stuck, you know, waiting for an answer, like dependent on some other force to kind of tell you what to do or save you from yourself or save you from your circumstances. All of that has been eliminated through this processing, more or less, you know, where you don't have to rely on anything particularly outside of yourself. You can defer to a supreme source, but also, again, realizing that it's a co-creative process even in that deferment. And as I was saying before, like, it's the difference in mentality and psychology, where, like I said, it's one thing to burn the midnight oil and, you know, push yourself, power through, push yourself to the max. But it's a scarce, it's fueled by a scarce mentality where you don't necessarily feel supported, or you're not sure that there's going to be enough, and that causes a whole level of psychological and emotional suppression, depression, and so on and so forth, when you kind of feel stuck or beholden to some outside force, because you're not realizing. This is the perfect example, and I love that it's here with the high priestess, that all of the things that you've done spiritually before the kinetic energy, before the physical ambition, is what solidified the outcome in the first place. The Nine of Pentacles is an inflection. 1206 lights up on the clock is the inflection of, and that's a 9. That's crazy. Of what you've manifested in the spirit first. This is perfect. Again, when nobody was watching, when nobody could tell, maybe when you couldn't tell, and then here it is, the fruits begin to sprout. You know, flowers begin to blossom. The harvest becomes ripe. But that is usually on account of something that you did spiritually more than anything else. And now this is like you knowing that, having all the confidence in the world, and that accelerates your invested energy now in the physical form and everything else here, you know, to this point of fulfillment, like total fulfillment here, in a way that is unlimited return and reward. You know, like this is divinely enhanced here. You know, so what this is something that doesn't run out, which means when you are working in a smarter spiritual frequency, first recognizing that the spiritual does matter, it does count even more so than anything, then you always have fuel on reserve. You know, you never burn out, you never run out of ambition or run out of determination or passion or drive, where you find yourself needing to fill up in depleting ways or unsatisfying ways, because you've cultivated your a conductivity for only the most supreme, like having like what do they call it, like not regular, but what's the higher octane of fuel? Yeah, it's like going from regular to premium. Yeah, premium. You know, where, no shade, because I use regular myself. My car is not being fueled by premium right now. Not this one anyway. But it's like what you fill yourself up on, what gets you going, what keeps you going, you know, is not the bare minimum or the basics. It's elevated now, because you've seen what projecting from an elevated perspective can afford you, and you have the evidence to know that you know, that's enough, you know, and that's the more sustainable resource to assure that not only will you have, you won't just have like a bailout situation or a one-off, like, oh, you know, a one-off windfall or a lucky break, but this is something like abundance that you can maintain consistently, maybe even eternally, when you're running on this octane. Like eternal chariot energy, never thinking otherwise, you know, like nothing is ever anything less than a victory or a triumph. And that is the origination of the spirit here. because that is what you may have conjured as a high priestess, that mentality. And this is so funny because this was all in my prayer before I started. You know, it's different. Like, it's one thing when you have to conjure your spirit to sustain a certain level of faith without evidence, you know, like hold a certain ideal in high regard, or like as your focus, in order to maintain that frequency of faith. It's a whole nother thing when you have the material evidence to support that founding. That just further, what's the right word, like it further like enhances that quality of which you had to kind of conjure from, literally make something out of nothing, as opposed to now conducting that force with the resource already at hand from which was conjured, pretty much. There could never be a lack. So what I'm saying is, like, as a high priestess, you had to always be, remember I was saying, like, you just had to shift your mental and your spiritual to just always be in belief that everything's working out, everything's working for your highest good. That's what I'm saying here is the end result. Now, where you have the victory and the triumph to support that, but as I said before, with the materialization here, it had to start by being able to conduct that ideal as reality with no evidence in the first place. And that's the power. So if you could do that with no evidence, no support, at many points in times having to detach from places that would have given you support, even if it was a false sense of it, security, peace, in certain ways that may not have been so satisfying and gratifying, but they were worth something. And yet you were still able to change your mind, to like to mold your mind and your auric field to command this truth, or command this reality, again, that there was no evidence for. That type of force is unstoppable when you have all the evidence and all the resource in the world, is what I'm trying to say. Like, what you're about to be able to do now, the level of energy you're about to conduct now is going to be remarkable, to say the least. Yep. Remarkable. So cheers to you, literally. Cheers to you on that, because that's amazing. But again, I got to come back to my original thought, which is to make sure you give yourself time to be in the moment. Be here now. Be present with this realization of achievement, of accomplishment, of victory after struggle, of success after struggle, of accomplishment and overcoming what could have been quite dire circumstances for some. I mean, we got the Five of Cups and the Five of Pentacles here. Those are two energies, especially back to back, that are designed to break you, designed to put more on you than you can bear. And not only were you able to overcome that oppression, and however it was being projected, doesn't really matter, because it was your response, your composure through it all, and your commitment to having it all turn out, particularly having you turn out from its grips. And if you can't celebrate that win for what it is, as it is, you'll be hard up to find other moments that are celebratory, you know, and that being the empowering life force and fuel that gets you ready for whatever the next leg of the journey is, that rejuvenates you and regenerates that force for the next leg of the journey. I'm saying this not because you have to do it, but because you get to. You know, it's like part of the spoils of the victor. You don't just check off the win and then rush off to the next battle, or God forbid the next war. You know, you celebrate what you've done here and allow yourself to be celebrated by the divine, especially, which to me it's evident the divine would like to celebrate you as you allow yourself to be celebrated. Because the divine, like I said, could be celebrating you all along, showering you, and you'd be so distracted or focused on what's next that you don't even fully revel in it. And you deserve to. You deserve to. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.